Dear students, I am Nausheen Nizami, and in today's session we are going to understand general equilibrium analysis in production theory. So we are going to see that how general equilibrium is obtained in production, and the precondition which requires this equilibrium in production is that there should be an efficient distribution of all the factors of production between the firms. Now you know that the equilibrium of a firm is obtained when the slope of isoquant is equal to slope of isocost. So the slope of isoquant is given by marginal rate of technical substitution, and for slope of isocost you need to know the price of labor and capital, which is given by wage and rental rate of capital. So the ratio of wage rate to say rental rate, or what you call interest rate of capital, gives us the ratio of the input prices. So when MRTS is equal to the ratio of input prices, a firm is in equilibrium. However, here in general equilibrium analysis we are going to try to understand the joint equilibrium of two firms. So for simplicity we are only taking the case of two firms, and we will be drawing their isoquants in an Edgeworth box, and we'll try to understand this entire process with the help of diagrams. Let's move to the next diagram, which is representing Edgeworth box, and you can see that there are many isoquants here. So let me explain how to start drawing this diagram. First step is to draw this rectangle. After drawing the rectangle, you may draw even this black curve, and if you want you can directly start drawing the isoquants. So thinking that we are taking the case of two firms, analysis of one firm would be given on this side and analysis of the second firm would be given on the top right corner. So we will have upward sloping isoquants, or what you call convex shaped isoquants, when we move from bottom left corner. So these are represented by green. So you can draw four or five isoquants in any color, and when you draw isoquants for the second firm, you can draw it say in a different color, and they would look concave, although when you are analyzing them from top right corner they are convex to origin. So you will draw five isoquants in such a manner that all of these isoquants are tangent to each other. So you have to keep in mind that when you draw they should be tangent to each other, and starting from the top right corner, you have to ensure that the second isoquant that you draw, that should be merging with one isoquant of the first firm. So these are 2-3 things which you have to keep in mind when you are drawing the diagram of isoquants. After you have drawn them, you just have to name them. So O stands for origin, and if we are considering output produced by two firms, so for firm 1, output levels are given by x1, x2, x3, x4, and you can name this as x5. Similarly, the isoquants of firm 2 are given by y1, y2, y3, y4 and y5. So these are the 5 isoquants of firm 1 and firm 2, and we have noted some of the points of tangency as A, B and C, which we will be using for analysis a little later. We have also noted this point of merger of intersection of two isoquants x3 and y2 as Z. So how do we interpret this diagram? You can say that supposingly we are analyzing this point which is obtained by Z, you can interpret it by bringing in the inputs now in the diagram. So Bringing labor and capital. So this bar on both L and K represents that these are fixed quantities. So given a finite quantity of labor and capital, we can help in the interpretation of point Z. So what it represents. So supposingly we have divided it into two quantities given by Lx and Ly and Ky and Kx. So how do you interpret it? So at point Z, X3 quantity is produced of X commodity and Y2 quantity is produced of Y commodity. How much capital is utilized to produce this Z? And you can see how much capital is utilized to produce X3 and Y2 quantities of output. You can say starting from here O to this point. So Kx quantity of capital has been allocated to the production of X3 and Ky quantity of capital has been allocated for the production of Y2. Similarly, in terms of labor, Lx quantity of labor has been used for the production of X3 output and Ly quantity of labor has been used for the production of Y2 output. So this is how you can analyze any one of the points inside the Edgeworth box. However, now let's come to a very important point, and that is of efficient allocations. So not all the points inside this Edgeworth box actually show efficient allocations. So given that capital and labor inputs are limited in supply, you have to work out a possible allocation which is efficient in such a way that it should be impossible to increase the production of one commodity without decreasing the quantity of other. So efficient production does take place inside the Edgeworth box, and in order to understand where do you obtain such efficient productions, it's generally given by the points of tangencies of these isochons. So when you join all these points of tangencies of isochons with a common curve, that curve is known as Edgeworth contract curve. So this black curve that you see passing by is Edgeworth contract curve. So all the points which lie on the Edgeworth contract curve basically indicate all efficient allocations of inputs, and basically if you are at any of these points A, B, C, they are also alternatively known as Pareto optimal points. So just to recall what's the definition of Pareto optimality, it is impossible to improve the situation of any one economic agent, here it may be firm, without making the situation of the other agent worse off. So you cannot make anyone better off without making someone else worse off. That is the simple definition of Pareto optimality or Pareto efficiency. Now let's analyze this condition inside the Edgeworth box. So Edgeworth contract curve is the locus of tangencies of X and Y isochons, and you can say that at the point of all these tangencies the slopes of isochons are equal. So you can say that, say at point A, the slope of isochont X3 is equal to the slope of the isochont Y3. Similarly at point C, the slope of isochont X2 is equal to the slope of isochont Y4. So in general you can say that MRTS of X is equal to MRTS of Y. So this is the equilibrium, that's how you can analyze the equilibrium. And you know that for firm equilibrium, the MRTS should be equal to the ratio of input prices that we saw in the initial slide. So MRTS should be equal to W upon R. That gives the equilibrium of a firm. So in short, the general equilibrium of production occurs at a point where MRTS is the same for all the firms. That is at a point which satisfies the Pareto optimality criterion of efficiency in input substitution. So that gives the general equilibrium of production, and that also gives a Pareto efficient allocation. Now let me tell you that this point that we had been discussing, point Z, actually is a point of inefficient production, because a reallocation of capital and labor between the two commodities X and Y, say from Z to A or Z to B, would actually lead to greater production of any one or both the commodities. So that's why this point Z is not an efficient allocation. So supposingly you are moving from Z to B or Z to A, you will find that more of labor would be getting used, less of capital would be getting used if you are at point B, and as you move, say, from X3 to X4, it's increasing the output of X commodity, and if you're moving from Z to A, it's increasing the quantity of output of Y commodity. So actually the output quantities of at least one or both are increasing. So Z does not give us the efficient allocation of inputs. Now an interesting aspect is that if factor prices are given, and we also are able to take into consideration the Edgeworth box of production, one can also find out the amount or the quantity of X and Y that can be maximized, that can maximize the profits of the firms. So basically, in general, it's saying that if the input costs are known in advance, then a firm can decide to devise such a strategy which can maximize the profit of the firm. Now let's see that how contract curve also helps us in giving a different picture of the production side of the economy. So we can define the equilibrium of the firms in the product space and use another tool which is known as production possibility curve of the economy. Now you can actually derive this PPC curve, production possibility curve, from this diagram itself. Let me show you how. So all these contract curve that you saw earlier, and you also saw that ABC points are plotted here, that can generate the PPC curve. So you need to recall here that what is PPC curve, what is production possibility curve. So basically production possibility curve is also known as product transformation curve, and it shows that how one commodity can be transformed into another. So how much, if you want to increase the quantity of X, how much quantity of Y has to be sacrificed, has to be given up. And if you want to increase the quantity of output of Y commodity, how much quantity of X has to be given up. So the economic meaning of transformation curve or PPC curve is the rate at which a commodity can be transformed into another. So contract curve actually gives the PPC curve, and PPC curve also is a locus of all Pareto efficient output given the inputs available with the firm and the state of technology. PPC curve, which has been derived from the contract curve, shows us the maximum quantity of a good obtainable given the quantity of the other good. So supposingly you are producing X2 level of output for X commodity, then at most you can produce Y4 level of output of Y commodity. Similarly, if a firm is producing X3 quantity of X output, at most Y3 quantity of Y output can be produced. So at any point on the curve, all factors are optimally or efficiently employed. However, any point which is inside the PPC curve is technically inefficient. It basically implies that there are some idle resources which can be used to reach to any of the points on PPC curve. Similarly, any point which is above the PPC curve is unattainable unless more inputs or better technology is available with the firm. Now let me help you recall that what is the slope of PPC curve and how that slope of PPC curve can actually help us in understanding more about general equilibrium. So the slope of PPC curve is given by change in y, ratio of change in y to change in x, the negative of it. There is a negative sign because if you want to increase the quantity of y, one has to sacrifice the quantity of x and vice versa. So the slope of MRPT curve, or what you call the PPC curve, is given by marginal rate of product transformation. It's known as MRPT, which is given by the negative of ratio of change in two commodities. Now, taking into regard that here we are assuming the market structure as perfect competition, one needs to recall that in perfect competition, the profit maximizing firms try to equate the price of commodity produced to the long run marginal cost. So I am trying to make you recall the equilibrium condition in perfect competition. So in perfect competition, the condition is MC is equal to MR, but MR is equal to AR and that is equal to price. So in simple words, in perfect competition, you can say that marginal cost should be equal to price of output. This same condition we are going to use here, and we are trying to check that how it can help us understand the equilibrium if the price information is also available. So general equilibrium analysis basically tries to incorporate all the interactions, all the interdependencies between different concepts and different economic agents, which can help us in arriving at an equilibrium. So basically in production theory, an equilibrium, a complete equilibrium, is not possible if you do not know the price of X and Y. So you may be aware of the input costs, which is given by the ratio of W by R, and one may be aware about the slope of PPC curve. However, if the price of X and Y is not known, we may not be able to reach the general equilibrium. Therefore, the slope of the PPC curve should be equal to the ratio of the prices at which the two outputs X and Y are being produced, and that gives the general equilibrium in perfect competition for two firms. So given the commodity prices, say Px and Py, general equilibrium of the production is reached at the point on the production transformation curve that has a slope equal to the ratio of these prices. So in this diagram, this A and B, this AB line is basically giving the ratio of prices of X and Y, and when this line is tangent to the PPC curve, we get the equilibrium. At this equilibrium, what do you get to know? The general equilibrium is given by point T, and the two firms are in equilibrium producing the levels of output YE and XE. So these YE and XE levels of output of X and Y commodities are equivalent to the slope of PPC curve, and which is equivalent to the ratio of prices of X and Y. So after incorporating all this information together in this diagram, we can say that the general equilibrium in production theory is obtained through this equation, where the slope of PPC, marginal rate of product transformation, is equal to the ratio of marginal cost of X and Y, which should be equal to the price of X and Y. Because if the ratio of marginal cost is not equal to the ratio of price, it may imply that either the firm is experiencing losses or it is experiencing supernormal profits. However, the equilibrium is obtained where MC is equal to price of commodity. So that's how you can understand general equilibrium with the help of diagrams and with the help of the various equilibrium conditions that you have studied so far in economics. So, students, I would recommend you to also study this content more from different sources. You can refer to the main book, or you can just try to recall all your knowledge of production theory, consumer theory as a whole, because we come to the end of this session, and in the next session we are going to understand equilibrium in consumption in consumer theory. Till then, all of you take care. I really thank you for your patient listening for this long lecture, and I really wish you a very good time ahead. For all your doubts, we would be meeting soon in a live session. Till then, all of you take care and have a very good time ahead. Stay safe. Thank you.